For today's cruise news, the United States Coast Guard is currently conducting an extensive search and rescue effort to find a crew member that went overboard while working on board a Holland America cruise ship. And what's crazy about this entire story is that the cruise line was not even aware that a crew member had gone overboard until about 12 hours later, questioning all of the safety protocols that are currently in place. Also, hundreds of Carnival Cruise Line guests are furious and have taken to social media to complain after they say a fire that took place during their cruise ruined their entire vacation, and for that, they were given nothing, no compensation whatsoever. We will go over the details in today's video. So according to Holland America Cruise Line themselves, as well as the Broward County Sheriff's Department located in the Fort Lauderdale area, an unidentified crew member has gone overboard. Now, this incident actually took place this past Friday on April 12th. However, it wasn't known or reported until the following day. Basically, what ended up happening was there was a crew member at about 9:45. This was confirmed with Holland America via the surveillance cameras on board. He would intentionally, purposefully jump overboard. It wouldn't be discovered that he jumped overboard until the following day when the ship was en route back to its home port over in Fort Lauderdale. They would look at the security footage because at that time, all they knew was that that crew member was missing. At 11:18 a.m., they would then, of course, alert the proper authorities, that of course being the Sheriff's Office as well as the Coast Guard, and now there is currently a search and rescue underway. Right now, we do have the United States Coast Guard working alongside the Broward County Homicide and Crime Scene Unit to hopefully find this unidentified crew member that did go overboard. This did take place between Cuba and Key West. Now, do keep in mind the ship was concluding its cruise coming back into its home port over in Fort Lauderdale, so it is a heavily trafficked area. A lot of cruise ships going in and out of that area, and the question that a lot of people are asking at this point in time is, why did it take 12 hours for the cruise line to not only find out themselves that a crew member had gone overboard, but also over 12 hours to alert the proper authorities? What you have to understand about cruise lines is that they do have options as far as, let's say, man overboard detection systems. There is an actual system that can let the, let's say, the staff over in the bridge to control area know when somebody has potentially gone overboard. However, that is somewhat optional when it comes to the cruise lines. A lot of them have opted to just use the surveillance cameras, and should there be a situation in which somebody does go overboard, they can go back and look at that camera, which by law, they at minimum at least have to have that or some type of man overboard detection unit. And since they already have well over, at least most modern cruise ships, over 2,000 cameras on board, well, they will just use that. I do personally understand to a certain extent why the cruise lines decide to just use the security surveillance cameras as opposed to installing the man overboard detection system. First of all, by law, yes, they have to have something in place. I do believe, as far as their perspective, it's not from a negligence perspective or in the fact of greed that they don't want to install the man overboard detection systems. First of all, yes, it probably would take a while, but you have to understand that we are also dealing with technology. Technology can malfunction. Let's say, in theory, every other week, there is potentially a false alarm of somebody going overboard or something of that nature. Probably get annoying. You probably have to hire on additional surveillance staff to, let's say, solely go watch the railings for anybody going overboard, because I can't imagine how sensitive those systems could potentially be. Maybe a bird would fly over by the railing and it would trip it and somebody thinks somebody's gone overboard. Now the Coast Guard is alerted and all of this jazz. I'm just theorizing, but either way, this is a sad story. Obviously, Holland America has put out a statement giving their condolences and prayers, and I have to be honest with all of you, considering it's been, well over 36 hours now, heading into 48 hours or 2 days now, that this crew member has been missing and he jumped off in the middle of the night. I've said plenty of times on occasions like this and sad situations like this that have happened that, yes, it is unfortunate, but it's like finding a needle in a haystack, especially when you jump off in the middle of the night, and finding that unidentified crew member, chances can potentially be slim to none. But obviously we keep our spirits up, and hopefully the Coast Guard and the Broward County Sheriff's Department can find this unidentified crew member. Next up, we have some news coming out of Carnival Cruise Line. As many of you know, there was recently a fire on board the Carnival Freedom cruise ship, well, the second one within about a 2 years time, and the guests that were on board are furious because of what they got, or should I say lack thereof. I'm going to go into further details in a minute here, but let's just play a clip, that way you guys have a general understanding of what's going on.
When your ship's on fire.
Midway through a 5-day March cruise, Carnival Freedom's tail caught fire.
I looked out the window and then I saw smoke and I'm like, something's not right.
For 9-year-old Catherine Dre and her family, it marked the beginning of the end of what had been a great getaway.
We couldn't swim, we couldn't eat, we couldn't do water slides, we couldn't go to the sports area.
This was on deck 5, so low on the ship.
Water, as you can see, was dripping out of the ceiling.
Catherine's mom, Kelly Booth, says many of the venues on the back half of the ship, including the pool and restaurants, shut down for the day.
And at this time, we remind you that no guests are to be out on the open decks until further notice.
They did open up the main dining room, but imagine trying to cram over 3,000 people into one dining space. The lines to get into dinner were hours long.
I know that there were some people that waited up to I think 3 or 4 hours to even get a table.
Passenger Gemma Phillips is one of several who told us some of the sports venues, along with the adult pool, remained closed for the remainder of the cruise.
The second that happened, our vacation no longer was vacation.
Gemma created this Facebook page for Carnival Freedom passengers. It has more than 280 members, most of them upset that Carnival isn't willing to offer cruise credit or anything else for their stress and inconvenience.
I think it is an insult to all of us.
Carnival told us in this statement any venues that were temporarily closed because of lightning in the area or from the brief cleanup after the fire was extinguished were reopened by the late afternoon, early evening.
That's horrible. This is their springtime vacation with their families.
Veteran travel agent Tammy Levent says there is no Bill of Rights for cruise passengers and no regulatory agency to advocate on their behalf. She recommends cruisers purchase trip interruption insurance.
It could probably salvage some of your money back because it was interrupted. It wasn't your complete cruise.
We will provide you with an update as soon as more information becomes available.
Gemma Phillips says this was her 10th cruise on Carnival and probably her last.
But I don't want to have to break up with Carnival, but they are leading no choice but by the way that they're handling this.
And Kelly Booth, a 3-time Carnival cruiser, says she's already canceled a future Carnival trip and booked with one of their competitors.
The way Carnival has handled this and the way Carnival has treated the guests that were on board has ruined what I think of them as a company.
You know it's bad when a person that's loyal to Carnival Cruise Line, a very important fun person, a carny if you will, is saying they are no longer going to sail with Carnival Cruise Lines, which is a big deal because Carnival offers a lot of deals that it's hard to pass up. On top of that, they do offer a very great experience. However, I have argued, yes, the consistency issue when it comes to Carnival can be a little wishy-washy, but overall, if you're going on a newer Carnival ship, it's not bad at all. Nevertheless, this woman that was on the video here is saying she's going to now be a loyal to Royal or an NCL, or we don't have a name for NCL, but you get my point here. Anyway, in all seriousness, let's look at both sides of the coin here. I do understand the side and the gripe of the guests that were on board. Their cruise was definitely interrupted. However, they should heed to what the travel agent was saying and, well, get some travel insurance. That way, let's say if your cruise is somewhat interrupted, because it was indeed interrupted, ship struck by lightning and caught on fire, yes, interruption, they could possibly maybe recuperate some of that money back that they have lost, or at least have something happen to some degree that isn't in, let's say, control of the cruise line. However, I look at it from the perspective of Carnival. If their ship was indeed struck by lightning, you can write down act of God and, well, they're not technically obligated to compensate any of the guests. I would say, because I don't know all of the ins and outs and intricacies and details and fine prints, it's probably similar to that of, let's say, a cruise ship missing a port of call due to weather or any situation that may come up, engine failure or issues such of that nature. They're technically not obligated to do anything for the guest in terms of compensation other than return their money for any excursions that they may have purchased. However, oftentimes you will see them give maybe like $100 per cabin of onboard credit or something of that nature. Now, to be very clear here, I'm not exactly sure how valid it is that the guests that were on board the Carnival Freedom during the fire got absolutely zero compensation. I would hope that, let's say, Carnival would have at least shown some sign of good faith and given them something in terms of maybe an onboard credit or future cruise credit. However, that is not to be confirmed as of yet. I would imagine during this incident, Carnival Cruise Line was running around like a chicken with its head cut off. They had a ship that caught on fire for the second time. The ship didn't even return to its home port over in Port Canaveral. Instead, it went to, I believe it was Freeport, Bahamas, to the shipyard to assess the damage, and the next cruise after that was also canceled. They had a lot going on. Not making an excuse for Carnival. They are a business, and they have to make sure that their guests are taken care of. If they indeed did not give the guests anything, then yeah, technically, maybe in the fine print, they don't have to. They're not obligated to do so. But I think there is somewhat of an argument to at least make sure everybody is made whole, considering that even if it was an act of God and lightning strike hit the whale tail funnel, there were still a lot of guests affected that are unhappy, that were, let's say, possibly very loyal to Carnival Cruise Line. You want to make sure that they are as happy as possible, especially if it may potentially not cost you much at all. But that's all I got for this video, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Of course, hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe if you haven't already. And know, as usual, I love and appreciate every single one of you. I'll see you later. Take it easy.